We left off at a Mishnah, right?
Yes.
Hold on, just trying to find it. Okay. I'm having such a hard time. My device. Oh, that's why. Okay. Okay, so Zok the Mishnah, yeah, on what is it? Lamed Hey base. Yeah. So Mishnah says, Shachtu al Manas laniach es damay ayemurav. So we know that there's something called pigul, right? Which is that you're not allowed to think about, you're not allowed to have a bad machshava when you're doing any of the major avodas, right? So here, what the guy is thinking is he only thought. I mean, he did it. He said he didn't. Meaning, he thought that he's going to leave it over. He didn't think he was going to eat. Meaning, pigul and the other whatever, the pigul and the both pigul situations is one is if you think you're going to eat it after this man, or one is that if you think you're going to. If you think you're going to eat it, put some makom, but that's eating. What happens if you don't think that you're going to eat it? You just think that you're going to leave it, right? Meaning after this man, because that's also awesome. You're not allowed to leave a carbon after this man. So let's say you're just going to wait. So what's the story there? So shachtu al manas lahaniach es damay oye murav lamachar. Let's say he shechted it on a condition to just leave the blood or the murav lamachar tomorrow. Oy loitzi on the chutz or to take them out. He was just going to take them out of Yerushalayim, but he wasn't going to do anything more than that. So Rabbi Yehuda Paisel v'Chacham Mashir, Rabbi Yehuda says Pasul the Chacham say kosher. Amanas litin al kabi kevesh, and then the next thing is that he did it on this. We had a couple of times already. Amanas litin al kabi kevesh on the condition to put it down on top kevesh on top of not kevesh, right? And to put it down on top of the blood instead of sprinkling on his veil. He's just going to put it down. Shaloi keneged yitzad, not opposite the base. V'litin es hanitnim lamala lamata, and what was supposed to go above the chut hasikra, above the red line, he was going to put below it. There's hanitnim lamata lamala, and whatever is on the bottom, he was going to put on the top. There's hanitnin on Tamar Aleph now. Bifnim bechutz, and whatever is to put on the inside, you put on the outside. There's hanitnin bechutz bifnim, and whatever's on the outside, you should put. That he puts on the inside, meaning the inside mizbeach. Sheyachlu tameim, or that people that are tamei are going to eat it. Sheyakrivu tameim, or that people that are tamei are going to be makravit, which is all not allowed. Sheyachlu arelim, that arelim are going to eat from it. Sheyakrivu arelim, and that arelim are going to be makravit. L'shavar atzamas of or to break, meaning this is all the things that he's thinking he's going to do with the carbon. Right? He says that people that are tummy are going to eat it, or they're going to be makravit, or an oral's going to eat it, or an oral's going to be makravit. He's going to break the bones of the korban pesach, lechel imenu no, or he's going to eat it not fully cooked. Ula'arav damay b'dam psulim, and to mix the blood with the blood of pasul karbonos. So kosher, it's all kosher. Why? So this is an important yesod in the halachas of what pigul is. It's kosher. Why? She'ein machshava peseles ela b'chutz lizmane b'chutz lemekayim. Because a machshava that makes it possible is only things that have to do with chutz lizmane and chutz lemekayim. But that's it. But pesach v'chatas shaloi lishman. And pesach and chatas is shaloi lishman, meaning that's a Pesach and Chatas have their own din, which is that if you eat the korban Pesach shaloi lishma and the Chatas and the korban Chatas shaloi lishma, then that makes it puzzle. So basically, what the Mishnah is saying, that psulim, you can think about psulim all you want. The only psulim that actually make the korban puzzle are the to think that you're going to eat it outside this man or outside the
So it's
outside
either
Yerushalayim.
kosher or chorus. That's it.
It's either kosher. Well, no. Notice chutz l'zman is chorus.
Yeah.
Not that simple, Rabar. There's one more wrinkle. Chutz l'zman is chorus. Chutz l'makom is not chorus but puzzle, and all these other ones are kosher.
All right. Chutz Markham not being pickles Machlaikis, Shmuel Grossman and Jerry Bloom. So it's all Machlaikis.
That what?
I have a Machlaikis about it.
Yeah, do they?
Yeah. Since at least since the last time, maybe two times.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow, we had it over and over again. Chutz v'kaim is not piggle.
Right. It's
just I'm reporting. I'm not saying my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, but that's fine. That's the Mishnah. So now before the Gemara, let's just chazah the Mishnah. The first thing the Mishnah says is that if he just had in mind that he's leaving it after this man, or he's leaving it outside Yerushalayim or the Beis Hamikdash, whichever korban it is, then it's a machlaikis. Rabbi Yehuda holds pasel, Chachama holds it's kosher. Right. So now the Gemara goes through basically the whole Amar Aleph, Rabbi Yehuda's shita. Zok Gemara, my time in the Rabbi Yehuda. So why does Rabbi Yehuda hold that the korban is possible? Right. So again, he was talking about a case where the guy thought that he's just going to leave it. He didn't think he's eating it. Some Rabbi Elazar trey kroik sivi but noiser. It says two different psukim by noiser. It says don't leave anything over until the morning, right? That's the korban by the pasuk by noiser. And it also says don't leave it until the morning, right? So one says don't leave it over, and one says don't place it. And many in the lahaniach, you don't need the pasuk to tell you lahaniach because you know it from the other pasuk. So then it must be that it's coming to tell you the machshava of hinuach, meaning even if you just think in your head that you're going to leave the korban for after this man, it's going to be possible. That's what Rabbi Yehuda gets it. So the Gemara says Rabbi Yehuda, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, he needs the extra pasuk of noisa for something else. I mean, look at the Tanya. He needs it for what it says in the Brisa ubasar. It says ubasar zevach toida shlomov. It says the basar of a toida, that's a shlomim. You have to eat it that day. Like Kedarka, the Gemara does not bring the pasuk, the whole pasuk. The main pasuk is the end of it. You have to eat it that day, and don't leave it over until the morning. So lamanu l'toida shenechel siyam v'layla. That tells us that a korban toida gets eaten for the yom v'layla. Chalipin. What happens if they swap it? Because a korban toida, if they needed to, if somehow it got lost or whatever it is, and then they had to swap it out. V'vladas. Let's say the korban toida was pregnant, so when it has a baby, that baby also is a korban toida. Tmura, as we know. Tmura is when you swap out a korban. You're not allowed to swap out a korban, but if you do, they both retain their kedusha. So minayin, how do you know that those also can't be left over? Tamalei ubasar. It says ubasar. Chatas va'asham minayin. How do you know that a chatas and asham also get eaten only during the day and at night? Tamaloimar zevach, because it says zevach. Uminayin l'rabbi shalmei nazir v'shalmei pesach. And how about shlomim of nazir and shlomim of pesach? Tamaloimar shlomim. It says shlomim lachmei toida v'chalas of rekikim shemenazir minayin. What about the korban toida and the chalas and the rekikim? How do you touch the rekikim? Wafers, right? Sheben nazir minayin tamaloimar korbanoi kulan kairani behen loyaniach. So in all of these, it says do not leave them over. Right?
Over
Don't
from
leave.
their appointed time. Yeah, I mean, Shlomim's
Yes.
2 days.
Correct.
Okay.
Anytime you're supposed to. Yeah, exactly. So you see that's what you need loyania for, to teach all these halachas, right? So the Gemara says, Im Kain. So we're gonna learn out something else. Im Kain. So if so, then hold on, my iPad's making me problems. What is it? Im Kain lemakra loisisiru. That the pasuk say don't leave it over. My loyaniach. What does it mean? Don't put it down. In the hinuach, if it's not an Indian for leaving it over, so you need it for a machshava of hinuach, right? Meaning, so now we're learning it out from the extra pasuk and the choice of words that the pasuk used, right? That's what the Gemara is saying now. So meaning it was an extra pasuk and that the pasuk said lo yiniach. Okay, so the Gemara says hatinach lo niach. That all tells you that if the guy has in his head that he's going to leave the carbon for after this man, fine. Lahaitzi ma'ikul. But what about lahaitzi? What are you going to say about it? What's your source that if a person just thinks in his head that he's going to take it out of the rishus of, let's say, out of Yerushalayim or whatever it is, what is it then? Time of the Rabbi Yehuda svarahu. And the reason for Rabbi Yehuda has a svara. He doesn't need a pasuk. Right? It's a svara. The Tanya, Amar lehem Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said to them, aren't you minded to me that if you leave it till tomorrow, it's pasul, right? That's pashut. Everybody says if you leave a carbon till the next day, it's pasul. Af chishev lanicha l'machar pasul. So then thinking to leave it tomorrow should also be pasul, right? And he's saying it's a pasha d'svara. You're not allowed to eat the carbon after this man, right? So if you think about eating the carbon after this man, so that's also not allowed. Okay, so you're not allowed to leave the carbon after this man. So then l'chayra, thinking about leaving it should also be pasul. So it's a svara, right? So okay, so now we have a kasha because first, yeah.
So I'm saying balabatish. This balabatish, a concept that you don't get punished for thinking, is wrong. You have to do a ma'isa.
Well, yeah, it depends for what, right?
Well, here you have cases in the Migdash. Guys, chorus.
How is it going to eat it? Isn't nicer? Isn't the shot nicer? Is he didn't do the misa? He just didn't finish eating the whole thing.
It's nicer. I'm not talking nicer.
Nicer, yeah.
Piggle. I'm talking piggle.
No, but nicer, right? Yeah, nice, but nicer you could fix, right? Nicer you could fix. You burn it.
Right. There's no way. Yeah. Slavanita plus se. Yeah.
Right. So then, but you also have, right? So you have where you can just think, and now we're being mechalik between the thinkings, which is what Rabbi Yehuda is saying. Well, thinking should be should be a problem.
It's a problem. It is a problem.
According to Rabbi Yehuda, correct. Ella, time of the Rabbi Yehuda svaro. So we said that the taka, right? So that the Rabbi Yehuda's reason is a svara. That svara exactly is the reason.
I don't understand this svara of Rabbi Yehuda in the brisa here. The that word pasul means the meat is pasul for achila. The carbon's good. The meat's pasul for achila. The second pasul, pasul, is on the whole carbon. The owner needs to bring in carbon. How do you learn that? How do you jump from one to the other? Just because nicer is pasul for achila doesn't mean that if chishev to make nicer, it's going to pasul the carbon. Maybe pasul the meat for achila, but even that, why?
Well, I guess he's basing it on piggle.
Yeah, but then the star doesn't work.
Why not? If it works for piggles, then it should work. I mean, why doesn't it just say karas already? That's what you're saying. Why doesn't it just go up to the level of piggles?
So the Torah tells us what piggle is. and the psul of chutz l'mekaymai. Now he's making a new isser based on this svara. But this svara doesn't work.
Right. I hear. I don't know. Okay, but that's okay. But that's the Gemara saying that it is the svara, right? Meaning the svara is if the Maisa asers the carbon, then the machshava of that same Maisa should also aser. So Gemara asks, "V'niflag nami Rabbi Yehuda bekulu." So then, if that's the case, and that Rabbi Yehuda holds that the machshava passes everything, so then why not all the cases in the end of the Mishnah, right? If he thinks that he's going to eat the carbon pesach raw, and if he thinks he's going to have a tummy eat it or an oral eat it and all that, how come there Rabbi Yehuda's maida? And how do we know Rabbi Yehuda's maida? Because he doesn't disagree. He only disagrees in the first case. He doesn't disagree in the other cases, right? So the Gemara says, "V'nifla nami Rabbi Yehuda b'kulu." Let him disagree with all these cases. So the Gemara says, "Well, what is he supposed to disagree with?" Behein niflag. Which one should he disagree with? B'shayver atzamas. If it's talking about breaking the bones of the carbon of the pesach of the carbon pesach, and that he thought in his head he's going to eat it raw or whatever, half cooked. Zvicha gufei mi mifsal amanash. I'm sorry. Zivcha gufei mi mifsal. Was the carbon itself become puzzle? Meaning you don't puzzle the carbon itself, the mafreya, right? Meaning if a guy decides to physically take the carbon pesach, he checks the carbon pesach, everything is gewaldig. Then he runs out of patience to roast it. So he says, you know what, I'm hungry, I'm cooking it. Or whatever, half cooking it. So that doesn't passel the carbon pesach. He's yaitza his mitzvah carbon pesach, maybe not eating the carbon pesach, but he's yaitza his makriv of being makriv the carbon pesach. Right? Amanashi yichlu tameim v'sheyikru tameim. Right? So if he does it on condition that somebody tummy is going to be makriv it or eat it. Zivcha gufei mi mifsal. The carbon doesn't become puzzle because a tummy decided to eat it. Right? Sheyachlu arelim v'sheyikru arelim. That an oral will eat it or an oral will bury it. Zivcha gufei mi mifsal. Will that make it puzzle? Also doesn't make it puzzle. Lishna achrina, or another lashon is meaning why would he disagree? Is kol kamine, meaning does somebody who's tame or is an oral have such a koyach to passel up a carbon, somebody else's carbon? You can't, right? Meaning he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that koyach. Right? The sheikh doesn't have the koyach. Now, why here he doesn't have the koyach, but other places he does, I don't know. Right? So I'm not, I mean, it's not.
He has the koyach to leave it over to make nicer.
Well, that's if they physically leave it over, no?
Yeah, but he can say, I'm going to leave it over because he has the koyach to leave it over. But he doesn't have the koyach that someone else should eat it. He can't force that.
You can't force that. Okay, but so how come here? Here we're saying that you can't.
Where? In the case of Yehuda holds it is possible. That's where he's eating it or he's bringing it. So he can say al-manas that I'm going to do something. He can't say al-manas that someone else will do something.
I don't know. Is that the case? Is that how?
I think so. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying, but Lamaisa, it's somebody else answering, isn't it?
Where? In which case? If a tummy would eat it or something like that, then he would passel the meat.
Right.
But he can't have in mind someone tummy will eat it. I mean, he can have it in mind, but it's meaningless. It's not in his power to give it to a tummy to eat. Or technically, he can give
something. The tummy has an issa to eat it, so he can't.
Right. So he can give it to the tummy to eat, but the tummy's not going to eat it. You can't force him to eat it.
Right.
You can make.
I hear.
You can make it into a case of different Mishaimim. If his father tells him he has to eat it. You guys tell me, and his father tells him he has to eat it.
Well,
See, Yaakov, what would be in that case, Tak? I don't know if I invented a kasha or
It's
if
not
the
it's not charging the
if the
call.
father tells the Tomei to eat it, but he tells him to eat it b'shiurin, can the guy eat it because he got it from his father to eat it, but he won't be chayiv?
if I
Oh,
hear.
it's still usher. It's just not chayiv.
It's also okay. It's also, but he has the chiyuv to listen to his pops.
Yeah, but it's Mikdash Tiro. That's the isser.
Right. Okay, let's see. Weiter. Okay. These are kashas. Anyway, so that's what the second shot is. Fine. Now, then the Gemara continues, la'arav daman v'daman hapsulin, to mix the blood with blood that's puzzle. Yes, or yulud hamei, to amar ein dam avatal dam, like we learned in yesterday's daf. And if you mixed up one dam with another dam, right, that are puzzle, so Yehuda is mighty that the carbon is still kosher. Why? Because Yehuda holds ein dam avatal dam, because since dam is dam, so therefore it's all fine. Okay, litin lamala, to put that's on the bottom. If he put the blood that's supposed to go on the bottom on the top, or on the top on the bottom, Rabbi Yehuda l'tamei the amri the amar the Yehuda said shaloi l'mekayim nami mekayim karinam be, that he holds that there's anything on the, as long as it's on the mizbeach, even if it's not in the proper place of the mizbeach, it's still considered mekayim. Okay, so I'm going to ask v'lifloig b'nitnin b'fnim v'shenosan b'chutz. So what was the other case? That if you took the blood that's supposed to go on the outside mizbeach, you put it on the inside mizbeach, or the inside mizbeach, b'nitnin b'chutz v'nosan b'fnim. I said it backwards, but okay, the first one's the inside and the outside, and the outside and the inside. So why doesn't he disagree by that case? So Rashi says it's really only going on the first case, not on the second case. Anyways, okay, so Rabbi Yehuda being in Makom Shei Meshulish Bedam Bebasar Revurim, because Rabbi Yehuda holds that in order to make a carbon puzzle with putting it in the wrong place, that's where he holds it's puzzle putting in the wrong place, being in that you need a being on Makom that you have that you can be yaitza with three things. You have to be able to put the blood there, and the meat, and the emurin, and the parts are going to be burned. Right? Meaning, in order to make a carbon puzzle, right? You have to that you're going to eat it chutz l'makoymai. That place has to be, you have to be able to bring dam there. You have to be able to eat some sort of basar there, and you also have to bring a murin. Now, part of the cheshbonos of when you're allowed to do this is by the bamas. Right? I mean, it doesn't have to be at all times, because there's no place that there's all times. I don't know if there's no place, but then you wouldn't be, then outside you wouldn't have a problem. Right? So but their basar outside the Beis Hamikdash, you were allowed to have in the times of the bamas, whatever it is. So Rabbi Yehuda holds that that's what you need. You need that place, and you're not going to have that. You're not going to have that here, right? Because and that's all we learned this out from the pasuk by the pasuk in, I forgot which parsha, Shmini maybe, no, that the pasuk says shlishi, right? That it says 3, right? So, but point is that you can't do all this inside the heichel. So, Mamela, since you can't do that, it's not considered a puzzle carbon. That's what Rabbi Yehuda holds. So, I ask me, Islay the Rabbi Yehuda high svara. Does Rabbi Yehuda really hold it as svara? Vatanya Rabbi Yehuda Aimer. Rabbi Yehuda says, it says davar ra. It says something bad. Riba kan. That's a ribui. Chata sheshachta the darum. A chatas that was shechted in the south. The chatas shenichnas dama lefnim psula, and a chatas that you brought it in the dama inside is puzzle. So you see in the pasuk that it is puzzle, right? So I'm sorry that maybe you see that you can call it puzzle even though it's inside and you're not doing all three functions there. So then the Gemara, so that's the Gemara's kasha. So the Gemara says no, but less the Rabbi Yehuda shlishi. But does Rabbi Yehuda not hold of this shlishi, of the pasuk of shlishi that tells you that it needs all three? But Tanan Amar Rabbi Yehuda hichnis b'shoige kasha. If somebody brought the dam from a chatas from the chutz into the inside, it's kosher. Haba mezid, but it's kosher. We did it b'shoigig. Haba mezid, but if we did it b'mezid, it's puzzle. The kaimelon b'shekiper, and we're talking about where he had a kapara, meaning it's only in a place where there was a kapara from the dam. Hashtat, and now mahasum aili aila. Now over there where somebody brought the dam into the Beis Hamikdash, into the Heichal, keeper in. If there's a kapara, yes, Eli keeper. Loy, there's no kapara, not. Hacha the chashuv chashivi. But here, where all he did was think about it, like kol shekain, isn't it a kol shekain? So what do you see? Rabbi Yehuda does not say a carbon mibachutz. If you is not going to passel, I'm sorry, a carbon mibachutz, that's on inside. So that's a stira to the brisa. Meaning, so bottom line is we have two brises. One makes it sound like Rabbi Yehuda holds that in order to be chayiv for bringing the dam shalai b'mekayma, it needs to be a place that you need to be chayiv for all three, for dam, for achila, and emurin. And we have another brisa that says that he doesn't require all three. So our answer is trei tanoim. I'll leave it to Rabbi Yehuda. It's two tanoim going according to Rabbi Yehuda. Fine. So then the Gemara asks another kasha, but it's going to be the same teretz. So Rabbi Yehuda chatas sheshachta bedarim. Does Rabbi Yehuda hold that a chatas that was shechted in the darim on Talmud Beis now? Yeh chayiv, that he's going to be chayiv if he shechted in the, meaning the shechita has to be in the north. Does he hold that if you shechted in the south you're going to be chayiv? Atanya Rabbi Yehuda says, Yochol chatas sheshachta bedarim yeh chayiv. You would think that a chatas that's shechted in the south should be chayiv malchus. Talmud loimer loy sizbach l'Hashem alekecha shor v'seh. You should not be makriv to Hashem a shor v'seh. Kol davar ra, and it says anything that's going to be bad. Al davar ra atem chayve. You're chayiv on something that's bad. V'atem chayve al chatas sheshachta bedarim, and you're not going to be chayiv on a chatas that you shechted in the south. So Gemara says, so you see that you're not chayav for shechting a carbon in the south part of the heichel. So it's a steer in Rabbi Yehuda. So Gemara again says, trei tanoi, I leave to Rabbi Yehuda. It's two tanoim according to Rabbi Yehuda. So basically we have two machloiksim as to what Rabbi Yehuda holds about where a machshava b'chutz is, and also whether if you're chayav malchus, if you shecht in the south. Fine. Now the Gemara says something else. So Amar Rabbi Abba. So Rabbi Abba says, Maida Rabbi Yehuda's Maida that the carbon's going to be kosher, shechayzer v'kayvay lepigel, where he goes and he's kayvei pigel. Right? Meaning, if Rabbi Yehuda's Maida, let's say somebody makes the carbon puzzle for having a machshava that he's gonna leave it after the zman, but it's not pigel. But he could have by the next avodah. Let's say he shechts it with thinking he's gonna leave it, right? So Rabbi Yehuda holds that's puzzle. He could now go if he does, then he goes and he does the kabbalah with a machshava of pigel, right? Then that will taka make it into pigel. I mean, just because it's the carbon becomes puzzle doesn't mean that in the next stage of the next avodah, right? There's four avodah. So the first avodah, he has a machshava that Rabbi Yehuda holds as puzzle but not pigel. So Rabbi Abba is saying that no, he can still be over on pigel, because at the next avodah, if he has in mind to leave the dam, right, then it's going to be pigel, right? That's basically Yeah, so that's meaning he's saying it's not a one-shot deal. The whole issa can continue, right? So the Gemara says, Amarava Teda. So he says, let's bring a proof. The pigel lefnei zrika loy klumi, right? If you do pigel before the zrika, then it's nothing, right? Meaning you have to make sure that there's zrika in order to be machsher the carbon. I said before shchita, that's incorrect. You have to make sure that you have to have zrika in order to be machsher the carbon. Then during the zrika, you could have a machshava pigel, right? But before Zrika, it's nothing. Va'asi is Zrika, v'kaval of a pigel. But then when you do Zrika, then it makes a pigel, right? So that is a proof to Rav Abba that if somebody shechted with a machshava to leave the dam over, he's still going to be over on pigel. So Gemara says, V'loihi. And that's not true. It's not a raya. Why? There's a big difference between the two. Hasam hu chada machshava. There, by Rava, it's one machshava. Meaning the whole machshava was pigel, to eat it later. Hacha, here, trei machshavas, here it's two different machshavas. Right? So Mamela, since it's two different machshavas, so then it's not pigel. Fine. So the Gemara asks, Eser Ravuna Rav Abba. So now Ravuna has the kasha on Rav Abba from a case that we had in our Mishnah. Litin is a nitin lamala, lamata, lamata, lamala. To put what's on the bottom that's on the top on the bottom, and what's on the bottom on the top. La alter kosher. If he does it right away, it's kosher. Right? Meaning, if he put the blood that day, then it's kosher. Right? Because the Maisi did in the correct thing. Chazar, but then if he went back, v'chishev chutz l'makoymai, he went back and he thought that he is going to eat it outside the makom, it's pasul vein bekaris, as we know, because that's a pasul vein bekaris. Chutz l'zmanoi, but if he decides to do it chutz l'zmanoi, pigel, it is pigel v'chayavan love karas, and we are chayav karas. L'machar, but if in the next day, pasul, then it's pasul. Chazar v'chishev, if he goes back and he thinks again, bein chutz l'zmanoi, bein chutz l'makoymai, that whether he thinks that he's going to eat it chutz l'zmanoi or chutz l'makoymai, pasul, it's pasul. Ve'ein by karas, there's no karas. So what do you see? Right? That one pigel is not going to be chayiv after another pigel, meaning it doesn't go one after the other. Meaning once something happens in the carbon, that's it. So to yufta the Rav Abba, so this is a kasha on Rav Abba, to yufta it's a yufta. Because according to Rav Abba, one avodah has nothing to do with the other avodah. Right? Meaning you can have, if you didn't do a ma'isa pigel in one avodah, you can do a ma'isa pigel in another one. Yeah, fine. So Amar Rav Chisda has a continuation of this. Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Ravina Barsila, Chishev sheyachlu tmeim lemachar. Let's say this kohen is thinking that tamei people are going to eat it lemachar. Right. So here the machar is not allowed, but he's also saying that it's tamei people who are not allowed. Basically, what he's saying is that they're going to eat the carbon when they're not allowed to, but who's going to eat it? People that are not allowed to. Right? So he's saying that you're chayev. Meaning the chiddush is, even though the people that are going to eat it, chutz l'zman, are not even people that are allowed to eat the carbon in the first place. Meaning it's sort of like we had said that puzzle people can't make pigel, right? But here it's not a puzzle person making the pigel. The kohen is kosher. He's thinking in his head that people that are tamei, that are going to eat it later, right? Right. So he's saying, right, that it would be chayiv, and that's if you eat that carbon, you're gonna be what?
He's saying the word tmeim.
He's basically saying, yeah, he doesn't care about that tummy. Right?
And if you go back to Amud Aleph, the tummy part wasn't in his A to B oven. But
Right.
the lamach is biyadai, so we could get rid of the word tameim and say he's going to eat it tomorrow. If he's going to eat it tomorrow, that's chutzes manai. That's pigul.
Right. He's saying it's pigul, even though they are tummy. Yeah. Omar Rava, Teda, the basar lefnei zrika loy chazi, because the basar before zrika is not even right. V'chi mechashav le mifsal, and when he, but if he thinks about it, then it's gonna be puzzle, right? So what do you see? That when a kohen thinks about pigul on the basar, it becomes puzzle and it becomes pigul, right? So memela, what we're gonna learn from that having a machshava pigul, even when the person who's gonna eat it can't eat it, right? Because before the zrika, you're not allowed to eat the korban. And that's not a raya. Hasam zrika umirsi. There you're gonna do zrika, and then it's gonna become mutter to eat it. But here, the tame is not going to. Meaning, if he becomes tar, he'll be able to eat it. But somebody tame is never going to be allowed to have it. Fine. Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says margala b'pumei de Rav Dimi bar Chinana. There was a margala. A margala means a jewel, right? Or I mean that could be that. I mean it also means rugil. There's a few ways to understand it. Meaning he said it on his own, basically. Or he said it over from people. Meaning it was not a brisa. Right? Basar Pesach shaloi hutzel. Let's say you have a korban Pesach that was not roasted. Right? The lachmei toida shaloi hurmu, and you have lachmei toida that was not. There was no truma taken off of it. Right? Chayavan alein mishum tuma. You're chayav on them. If somebody eats it, who's tame, he's going to be chayav koros. Right? Even though the korban pesach itself is not right to eat. The korbanos are not at the pesach, and the what do you call? We're not right to eat. So why is this guy chayav? He's a tame. He's not allowed to eat it. But these korbanos were not right to be eaten anyways either. Right? But yet he's still chayav. So Amar Rava Teda the Tanya Sher Lashem the Rabbi Semuri Kachim Kalam Latuma. It comes to include Kachim Kalam Latuma. Alma Avagav the La Bnei Achila Ninu, even though they're not Bnei Achila, Chayav Aleim B'Shum Tuma. You're Chayav for Tuma. Hachanami Avagav the La Bnei Achila Ninu, even though you're not Bnei Achila, Chayav Aleim B'Shum Tuma. You are Chayav because of Tuma. The Loi, and it's not true. All right. Velohi, it's not true. Hasam emure kachim kalim. There, emurim of kachim kalim chazul gavaya. They're roi for gavaya. Lafuke basa pesach shaloi hutzla. Meaning, they're emurim of kachim kalim. They are roi for gavaya. Meaning, because they're put onto the mizbeach. Lafuke basa pesach shaloi hutzla. Korban pesach that's not roasted properly. Ulachmei toida shaloi hormu. And the lachmei toida. Lachmei toida, by the way, is the 40 loaves of bread that have to be brought. So each one of, meaning 4 loaves, one out of each 10 goes to the kohen. The loy chazu loyla gavaya v'loyla hedjit. There, it's not roy, not for the gavaya, not for hedjit. So yeah, so that's yeah, so therefore it's no raya. Lishnachrina ha'im run loy chazu v'loyhi. I mean, okay, it's a similar thing that they're not roy. Okay, Hadron Allah. Well, Gershon's supposed to ask a kasha now to push it off. Hadron Allah kol psulin and l'chaim.
L'chaim.
My wife's mother-in-law just left tonight, so it's been an interesting night.
That definitely calls for a l'chaim.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to make a l'chaim comment.
Yeah,
that's what I was waiting for. I didn't delay it.
My daughter had a baby boy today.
Mazel tov.
Mazel
tov. Mazel tov.
Very nice.
Good to hear, Simchas.
Yeah. Where's